Welcome to the Prep Pigskin Report podcast.
Welcome to PPR Podcast number 46. My name is Paul. His name is Burt. And being that this was your idea, even on the week you weren't working, why don't you introduce the hot man in the hot seat?
Well, you know, it feels like our last 10 guests all bring up the Eastlake Panthers and Clark Moses playing for that team. Clark Moses, president, coach, Eastlake Panthers, the Nick Saban of youth football in San Diego. Welcome to the show.
And welcome, Coach. Thanks for doing this. But before, I have to get this commercial plug in first, before we hear from Coach. You might notice that Burt and I are tastefully attired in PPR wear. It's the latest space-age fabric. It came out of the Milan fashion show. It's warm during the winter, but breeze during the summer. PPR, PrepPigsReport.com, PrepPigsReport.com. Get your stuff now because it flies off the shelf. Now, with that commercial out of the way, Coach, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, Coach, I have to confess, I've been working in this town for 24 years. I have heard your name, but I have never seen your face until this podcast. So it's an honor that you would make time for us, because it turns out everybody that we've talked to has played for you as a youth football player.
Thanks for having me, first of all. It's a pleasure. And it's good to finally catch up with you and Burt as well.
Coach, I mean, I'm going to ask my question right out of the blocks. With the success that you've had at the youth level, how come you're not coaching at the high school or above level?
Actually, coaches, we've coached a couple years at Eastlake High School, the freshman team. It was quite some time ago, but to be honest with you, I had two sons that went through youth football. One played at Eastlake High School, the other at Mater Dei, and I never really wanted to coach them in high school. I just kind of wanted to be a dad. So, and then the last group we coached was my godson, Trey Edwards. So we just been going on Friday nights and watching him play.
Trey Edwards, I've never heard of him.
All right, but let me just follow up. Is there a possibility that once your siblings have flown the nest or whatnot, your kids, excuse me, is there a possibility that you would entertain that down the road because let's face it, there are schools, some in the South Bay, that could really use a successful injection of coaching?
I think we would be open to it. I coached a long time, and it's been with a group of guys, mainly like Larry Edwards, Trey's dad. We've been together for like 20 years.
Derwin.
Coaches, I coached with Eric Parker, who played for the Chargers, and, Puka's dad, Coach Noah's been at Helix. I can go on and on. Rod Shelton, who's a judge here. Bob Hughes is a principal. Derwin, Ike Owens, who's a retired Navy captain. So it's not so much of myself at all. It's, the group of guys that we coach with.
But that to me would make you even more attractive candidate, because you have this great staff that would come with you. I'm just curious, do you get those offers? We've had a couple offers from time to time, but I kind of enjoy what I do, youth football. It's really nice to see the kids start off at a young level and go through high school and then off to college. So I think anything's a possibility, but right now our focus has been just kind of the youth, to be honest with you.
Clark, I'm going to ask you this question because I think you're probably the most qualified person to answer this, and it comes up a lot. Mater Dei State Championship with your son Kyle, plays Mater Dei State Championship with your godson Trey. Which team, because I know which team wins that game, but who do you think wins that game? Which team? And you got to give an answer.
It'll be tough. I think it'll go into overtime probably.
Stop.
It's I think the team they have now is pretty dynamic. But the running back they had at with Kyle's team with CJ
Riddell,
he's another level. But Mater Dei has McMillan, Mosley. So I don't know. I think this group may edge them out if I had to. It's hard to pick your son.
Oh, I agree. I think this group would kill them. I don't even think they'd edge them out.
We had C.J. Verdell on, Coach, and he begs to differ.
He did.
Yeah, I don't know about killing them. I know it'll be a good game. There's two different types of teams, very talented, but the modern day team right now is across the board. They're talented, but I think people forget how good that first team was as well.
How come the Eastlake Panthers aren't getting the pub that they deserve? I mean, we hear all about 7-on-7 teams and whatnot, but that collection, Coach, it floored me how many good players have come through your program, sometimes en masse. I mean, geez, you had like a D1 kid at almost every position. How does that happen?
I think it's maybe timing. The group that we had that's in high school now, there'll be seniors. A couple of them will be juniors. I think it's just a collection of talent across the board in San Diego. I don't think people realize how much talent it's at the youth level. I've been to Florida like 5 times, and I've seen the talent across the board when it comes to youth football and championships. And by far, San Diego competes the best. Stephen Cooper's took quite a few teams out to Florida as well, and I'm sure he can attest to it as well. Like the talent here across the board, just outside of Eastlake Panthers, I mean, you have, Los Toros, Balboa, Skyline, all of those organizations have been around for way longer than the Eastlake Panthers. But even IB, that's where the Alave boys played, and when they were there, they were probably, by far one of the best organizations in San Diego.
What do you think? Because I think the one thing I've noticed with youth is now, it used to be, the youth association was tied to that high school they played at, and those kids would all go to that high school. But you talked about Alaves, they don't go to Mar Vista. I remember Devin Lloyd played, I think, at El Cajon. He goes to Otay. I mean, there's been so many players that aren't, I mean, what happened to that it's not attached anymore? I mean, you remember it used to be, if you were at Skyline, you went to Morris. I mean, if you were at Balboa, you either went to Lincoln or you went to San Diego High, but it doesn't seem that way anymore. It seems like they just move around high schools. Have you noticed that?
I have. I think it actually probably starts at youth, because a lot of the coaches move around as well. They may start off at one organization and then go to a different, and so kids they may follow the coach. So, but you're 100% correct in your evaluation with that.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's hard to say, Paul, because the parents ultimately make those decisions. It's really not the kids or the coaches. So they want to go to programs where I believe they have opportunity to win, education, and then perhaps for those chosen few get a chance to go to college.
I guess, so we talk a lot about the South Bay. I mean, I don't know if you've been keeping up, Castle Park's facilities, Chula Vista High. People don't realize, I mean, that also goes to the youth football part. I mean, if you have these terrible facilities, these schools can't have a youth program. I mean, have you noticed that? I mean, you're a modern day, you just got a new field. Obviously, everything's great, but if Chula Vista wants to start one, or I don't even know if they have one anymore, or Castle Park or Mar Vista, it doesn't just go for the high school kids. I mean, where do these youth kids play if they want to play? They all have to go to Eastlake?
That's a good question. I'm not really too abreast with the politics behind the school districts and who gets the fields first, but I know for our area, we tend to have a lot of kids, mainly because of the community. The facilities, you have all the high schools, probably 5 high schools in a 5-mile radius. But a lot of the kids that go through our organization, they just don't go to Mater Dei. They go to Eastlake, Bonita, Olympian, Otay. This last particular group, I believe a lot of that has to do with Trey, because Trey's really been our leader since 7 years old.
I should ask you that. So why is, you're the president, why did you leave Eastlake and go to Mater Dei? No, I'm kidding.
You're actually the president.
I was. That's what I was just saying. I made that move.
You made that decision, but actually this year we will be playing at Eastlake High School, because Mater Dei is redoing their field, and so Eastlake has welcomed us back. So I think in the future we may be at both schools. Our organization is growing, and it'll give our kids opportunity to practice on good fields and perhaps both high schools moving forward.
Oh, geez. That's a news item right there.
What?
Those two schools, the youth program could now merge into the two biggest names in the South Bay. Because, I have to feel bad for you, Coach, because there's been this shortage of great athletes. I mean...
Clark gets them everywhere, though.
Can I ask you about that, Coach? Because I know, talking to college coaches, that recruiting kids from high school, you can see them play this, that, and the other thing, but you're never quite sure if they're going to be able to make the leap. I imagine even going down a level, when you're trying to figure out if a kid can play at the youth level, how do you evaluate? I mean, you don't have game tape. You're just kind of looking at the kid who may or may not want to be a football player. How do you so consistently pick kids or find kids that can play quality football?
That's a great question. I think some kids actually stand out. You can see their natural ability at an early age, but on the flip side, there's kids that develop late, and it may not be until high school. So you really never know who will have that opportunity when it comes to playing college football. But I think in particular, the coaches that I coach with, they treated everybody the same. I would have to attest our practices was probably some of the hardest, but the philosophy was to develop kids. And so whether or not they may be an elite athlete at 8 doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be that way at 13, 14, or 15.
Right.
And I think that was, we talked, I mean, for me, I'm going to ask you the same question, but I always say, who's the best youth player you ever seen play? And it was Trey for me. A lot of people don't. Trey was the best running back probably in youth football, maybe in the country for up until 8th grade. Who's the best you've seen? Is it Trey?
Trey was probably one of the best. The one thing about Trey, I think people don't really realize, he was probably not only the best, but he's the most unselfish player we probably ever coached. To be that talented, he would go football games without even touching the ball the whole game. He would ask to go in and block, and you just don't find that at all. And I think the reason why a lot of people tend to follow Trey is because of his leadership. He doesn't necessarily, he's a loud talker, but he's the most unselfish athlete I've probably ever seen. And that's a testament to really his dad and mom. Larry Edwards, he was hard on Trey as a youth, and he never really got away with anything, but it's just the discipline and the parenting.
And and a lot of people don't know, I'm going to ask, this is going to go off the rails for a second, but you played at San Diego State. Not bad.
Okay.
I want to bring up a San Diego State thing, because what do you think it is? Because we had CJ on here, and we asked him why he didn't go to San Diego State. You played at San Diego State, and he said they didn't recruit him, which was kind of shocking to us, I thought, in town.
Never offered him.
Offered him, never recruit him. Do you think that's changing a little bit, or you think they're starting to, target in-town guys? That was shocking to me.
Look at the inroads they made in the South Bay just recently.
It's definitely changing.
Yeah.
I agree. It's definitely changing. I think that's attributed to Brady Hoke. When he was here the first time, he had an outreach to all the former players, and he made it a goal. He wanted to reach out and recruit local talent. Coincidentally, when I was there, his brother, John Hoke, was my position coach. So, that's a great family. But I think Brady Hoke is going to make a difference in trying to keep these athletes here, because there's a ton of talent.
Yeah.
Can I go back to my youth coaching question?
You can. It's your glory days. I know that was where you shined. Go ahead.
Coach, could you, I know back in the day, I got dragged around by my face mask by my coach. It was considered no problem. I learned a vocabulary that would make a sailor blush during my youth and high school days. It was just a...
Hold up, my coach used to put his cigarettes out on her helmet.
Okay, but I imagine in the year 2022, things have changed a little bit. Can you yell at kids? I know you can't drag them around by a face mask anymore.
Right.
You seem like a real congenial, a gentleman. You have the grace of a gentleman. Is there an inner coach in you that yells? Or are you just kill them with kindness kind of thing.
No, I agree with you 100%. Times has definitely changed from back when we played youth football. I mean, you were considered weak to getting water during the break. So, but yeah, times have definitely changed. Right now, I think the way the coaches approach everything, you know, there's always someone watching. There's either a camera on you or someone videotaping or listening to your conversation. So a lot of that has to go to just the new coaching clinics and stuff like that is put on and try to adapt. But yeah, you definitely yell at kids. You yell to get your point across, but not necessarily at them personally. And I think as long as they know that you care about them as a coach, they kind of understand and can differentiate the difference.
I don't remember ever seeing you yell in the 3 years or 4 years I was president. I don't think you ever yelled. Like Ike and Derwin and Larry, they would yell, but I never saw you yell.
We had a good balance. You know, you had Max Swinky, who was a disciplinarian, got all our kids in order, conditioning. You had Ike, you know, former Navy captain, Derwin. But we also had coaches that didn't yell. So it was a good balance. We didn't have, you know, 8 guys out there yelling at kids all the time. So, you know, Coach Parker was out there, and, you know, he's probably one of the best coaches around that people don't really realize. The stuff he was teaching kids at 9 and 10 years old is stuff that they learn at the collegiate level.
Have you ever sat around and counted up all the D1 kids that have come through your system program, or all CIF kids? I mean, can you quote stats? I assume that the number is considerable.
Yeah, but it's quite a few. The 2 teams that Burt mentioned earlier, I think there was the first group was probably 15 kids who went to college. There'll probably be more this time around. But I don't know the stats off the top of my head, to be honest.
Jeez, Coach, you're so humble. I would wear it on my shirt. I have coached 31 D1. You would know that because I would sing it from the trees. I'd be telling everybody.
I got another one for you, Clark. He's just fascinated with youth football because that's where he shines. So we're going to get off that for a second. Who, if you were predicting right now, who's going to be the 4 open teams for high school this year? I know it's hard before the season starts, but give me your prediction.
Just based off of
7-on-7.
On paper, 7-on-7. I wouldn't be surprised to see, you know, Mater Dei, Lincoln. You know, you never can count Cathedral out. Carlsbad. Those are the first 4 that come to mind, but you just never know how it'll play out.
Got to keep an eye on Madison, too.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I think Madison's going to...
Madison has a tremendous amount of talent, and they're young. Most of them are juniors.
Yeah, they're going to be pretty good this year.
Madison's going to be there, definitely.
Well, and you pick schools that all have great quarterbacks, or we don't know who Cathedral's quarterback's going to be yet, do we?
No.
All right.
I have another question for you. I'm going to stick at high school. Because we're talking about Trey here. Has a defense player ever won the Silver Pigskin? I don't think so, right?
Well, Abraham Mahazy played both ways, but he probably won it for his offense.
So again, would Trey play any running back anymore, or is that just, are those days over? I kind of want to see Trey play running back myself.
I'd like to see that as well. I mean, naturally, he was a running back, but the reason why he's so good at linebacker, I believe, is because he understands offense.
Yeah.
To be honest, if you ever watch Trey out there, he's a coach on the field. Even in youth, he'll come off the field and tell you what's going on, who's doing what's happening. And when you watch film of him, he's really doing the same thing on defense. He's getting people lined up. He kind of knows, has a great feel for the game.
How many times have you gone to Florida and won it?
We went 5 times total. 2 with the 8th grade All-Star team we won. And then we took our team a total of 3 times. We won once, and we lost in the championship the other 2 times.
You are Nick Saban. Go there, but don't win it every time. All right. Nick Saban.
Coach, you're amazing. You're absolutely amazing. What changes as far as youth football? Are there any big changes? I know they're trying to take the head out of tackling, and I'm sure you've been on that for years now. But anything else along the lines of how the sport is evolving?
It's, I think 7-on-7 is slowly but surely going to enter its way into youth football. So in the off season, I wouldn't be surprised. I know that San Diego AYF, I have to say we have great leadership. That's one of the reasons why we're so good, I believe, in San Diego. The commissioner, Kathy Luna, Lawrence Lee, and Milton Clark, they do a fantastic job of leadership. And so not only is our conference organized, but they're constantly introducing new things. And one of the things they spoke about was like 7-on-7 moving forward. So I think starting at an early age, getting used to that even before you get to high school is going to be a good thing for kids.
When do you start, or when do you guys start? You have signups, I'm assuming now. When do you actually start practice?
The last Monday in July we start, so it's coming up pretty soon here.
So they just go on the website and register through Eastlake Panthers?
They do, but all of our teams are full right now.
Oh,
so
wow.
Are you taking a waiting list?
We do have a waiting list, yes.
So do you still have multiple teams at, different age groups? So like, two
We do.
teams?
We have flag right now. We have 3 flag teams, which is always important to start at the early age. We have 3 full flag teams, and so they tend to go up year after year. But we have we have one team at 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12.
All full up.
Well, Coach, as we wrap this up, because we kept you longer than we always say, we're going to keep this to 15 minutes. We're in overtime. Last question to you. Do you have a last question?
No, go ahead.
All right, my last question to you. The state of football, are you optimistic about the sport, or are you concerned for its future?
I'm optimistic. I think football went through the concussion era, the tackling, and I think it's here to stay. And as you can see, the NFL, especially during the Super Bowl, they're marketing to the girls at an early age and the women, and so that's a whole different demographics that I think they're going to bring in. And as you can see, they love football as well. So
That's it. A follow up on that. Do you have a lot of girls that are actually playing in the association?
We have, I think this year, as far as my knowledge, we're going to have 2 in our association. We had one at the tackle division last year at 10 years old. And then we're going to have Cruz Estrada, who plays for Mater Dei. His younger sister is going to play flag with us.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, Coach, thank you so much for doing this. It's a pleasure to meet you, even if it's via Zoom. And I look forward to having a face-to-face with you at some time, maybe during the PPR, okay?
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.